Би жаргал сайхан байна. Та юу чадхаа, юу байгаагаараа, хаа байгаа газараа хичээнгүүлэн хий. Сайн байцгаана уу эрхэм хүнд үзэгчдээ. Өнөөдөр ороо манай дефакто нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор Кентийн Эрхэм Дээд Хунтайж Майкл оролцож байна. Мөн Хүүхдийн Халамж олон улсын байгууллагын захирал Роберт Гробер оролцож байна.
Кентийн Хунтайж Майкл 1942 онд төрсөн. Их Британий эзэн хаан 5 дугаар Жорж, хатан хаан Мэригийн аж хүү бөгөөд хатан хаан 2 дугаар Элизабетийн үеэл. Их Британий хамтын нэгэмлэгийн гишүүн улс орнуудад хатан хааны зарим үүргийг төлөөлөн гүйцэтгэдэг, бизнесийн зөвлөгөө өгдөг хувийн компанитай. Сан Мигдэл сургууль, Итон коллежийг төгссөн. 1961 онд Их Британий хатан хааны цэргийн академид элсэн, Герман, Хонконг, Кипр улсад үүрэг гүйцэтгэж байсан. Цэргийн албанд 20 жилийн турш хүчин зүтгэсний эцэст 1981 онд хошууч цолтоогоор чөлөөнд гарсан. Энтхэг, Кипр, Свазиленд улсад болсон төрийн оршуулгын ёслолд хатан хааныг төлөөлөн оролцож байсан. Хунтайж олон тооны буйны байгууллагуудын үйл ажиллагаанд оролцсон дэмжлэг туслалцаа үзүүлдэг. 100 гаруй байгууллагын хүндэт ерөнхийлөгч болон удирдах зөвлөлийн гишүүн. Орос хэлний чадварлаг орчуулагч гэж үнэлэгддэг. 1978 онд гэрэлсэн 2 хүүхэдтэй. Хунтайж Майкл 1971 онд зохион байгуулагдсан бобслей спортын дэлхийн аврах шалгаруулах тэмцээнд Их Британий нэрийн өмнөөс оролцож байсан. 2009 онд Оросын холбооны улсын ерөнхийлөгч Дмитрий Медведев түүнийг нөхрөлийн удангоор шагнаж байна. 1998 онд Оросын эзэн хааны гэр бүлийг Санкт Петербург хотод оршуулах ёслолд оролцож байжээ.
Good evening. Your Royal Highness, thank you very much for coming to my program.
I'm delighted to join you.
Your Royal Highness, is it your first trip to Mongolia?
This is my first visit here. Yes, it is.
So how is it going so far?
It's very interesting to come to a country which has such an extraordinary record in the last few years of progress. And we've been very well entertained by your kind people. And the impression that I've been able to form is one of a country which in the last few years, since the change of regime 20 years ago, has gone through a lightning experience of transformation in virtually every area. And I've been very impressed by what I've seen.
You are with the business delegation. Please tell us about your delegation.
Yes, I've brought quite a large number of people, about 18, most of whom have come from England. And they're all businessmen, and their purpose is to see what opportunities there are for them here in Mongolia, chiefly from the financial point of view, from mining, and so on. And they each have their own agenda here.
It is certainly a very critical period of our development. We're moving to market economy, and then we want to use our mining wealth. Certainly, and we see a lot wonderful business practices from UK, in particular your capital market development, and London Stock Exchange is working with Mongolian Stock Exchange.
Indeed.
And you are going to visit tomorrow that Mongolian Stock Exchange.
Yes, I look forward to that very much.
And business delegation, are they investors to Mongolia, or they are learning more about Mongolia?
Both, I think, but chiefly they're investors.
What do you think Mongolia is a business investment destination for British business people at this time?
Well, I think there are so many different areas which attract people from Britain. As I said, the recent history here has attracted people for all sorts of reasons. You have a very young, dynamic workforce here. You have a very high standard of education, too, which people have noticed. And that's another area which one day I would very much like to be able to help to develop.
On the other side, from Mongolian side, many Mongolians, a particular business community, want to have a business relations with the United Kingdom. What would be your advice?
Well, I think that they should, when they come to England, they need to be able to find a good business partner and financial advisors who will be able to guide them through the sometimes rather complex procedure of doing business in Britain. But they can be assured that when they do come, they'll be very welcome.
Let us a little bit talk about education, which is the most, in terms of language, culture, history, for Mongolians, young people. England is a very mysterious, historic country. And what makes English education so much interesting for the other part of the world? I mean, you are a mentor for London School of Business and Finance, and our Prime Minister is graduate of that school. What does it make that London School of Business and Finance that special?
I think one of the great assets of this school, which is quite a young one, it's rocketed up and it's now become very much attracted attention in educational circles in England. I think one of its great assets is that in spite of its young years, it's attracted a great deal of foreign students, and that's where the Mongolians come in. And I think that's one of the things which would be a draw for them. They have specialized in many subjects which also have been of interest to Mongolians. And I think that the London School of Business and Finance is one which harmonizes with the way your people think. The other thing about education in this part of the world, which I've noticed in some of your neighboring countries too, when students travel from this part of the world to England or indeed to Europe, their knowledge of the West is very high. You have access to so many television programs, magazines, and so on. And you are able to acquire already a very good background of the way we live in the West. But when our people come to Mongolia, they don't have very much idea what to expect at all. So that the Western people coming to Mongolia can learn a lot more and really have their eyes very widened by that and by the very high standards of education you have here. And they're always very pleasantly surprised by what they find.
Thank you very much. One of your works you are completing at this time has to do with the organization called Care for Children. Please tell us about that.
Care for Children is an extraordinary young charity, and Mr. Robert Gробber, the executive director, is with us here. I met him some years ago, first time in Shanghai, and in other parts of China we've been to, and have been very struck by the amazing work that they do. He'll tell you about it, I'm sure, in a moment. We had two particular international symposia which I have attended, one in Peking a few years ago, and the other one was in Chiang Mai in Thailand just a few months ago. And the work that you'll hear in a moment that the charity does has been so outstanding that it has attracted the attention of many other countries in Asia who have seen the benefits that these children have had as a result of the work of the charity. And one of the delegates who came to the symposium was a lady from Mongolia, who I very much hope will be here tomorrow when we meet again. And it's an extraordinary charity, and during the time that we were in Chiang Mai, Mr. Gробber asked me if I would have any involvement. And
please tell us about the organization. What does it make the organization special compared with many other similar organizations?
Well, I think we've had to learn from our own experiences and our failures in the past. in the UK for about 40, 50 years now, we've been learning on how to place children back into families. And I don't think it's really rocket science that for thousands of years we raised children in families, and then for some reason we think when we put them in warehouses they'll survive, and quite often they don't. So the important thing for every child is to have a mother and a father.
Of course.
And that's what we aim to do. So for what we did when we went to China was we were saying to the Chinese, we haven't got anything amazing to bring you, but we've got a lot of mistakes that we've made that you can learn from. And I think that was a very good starting point 14 years ago.
And what is your plan in Mongolia?
Well, our plan is really just to explore and see if there's any way that we can share some of our experiences, both from the United Kingdom and in China, that would be beneficial here in Mongolia.
Certainly, I hope it will help a lot orphan children in Mongolia to have a better and full family.
Well, that's our desire, and I think that's what I suppose that's our expertise we've developed over the last 14 years, is developing the methodology of how to take a child that may be in an institution and then prepare it and train the family ready for matching and attachment of that child to that family, so that child can be raised with a warm and loving mother.
Exactly. You know, it is that heritage of the past, and we have changed in this country. Now we're becoming a more humanist, more humanitarian society. And at the beginning it is not easy. So that's why people, not necessarily everybody accepts these changes we are facing through. And somebody is becoming, having more problem which otherwise not before here. And it has to do with our with our history, like with Russia does also. Your Royal Highness, you have a Russian, say, relatives, and you have seen back Russia after Russia changed the former communist system, and you are quite active now in certain charity funds in Russia. Maybe you, пожалуйста, скажите, что вы делаете в России?
Да, правильно, что я посетил Россию первый раз в 1882 году. И это, как вы только что сказали, это было совсем другое дело. И я создал собственный фонд, и этот фонд разделяется в 4 частях. В образовании, особенно для тех, которые изучают после университета, в медицинах и в общей благодарности и в общей культуре, хочу сказать, и в реставрации древних зданий. И их много, конечно, везде в России.
Да, в не очень хорошем состоянии, наверное.
Очень, да, очень.
Нужно восстановление.
Это огромная работа.
Please, when you come back to the country as a person, okay, where you have your relatives, grand relatives, Nikolai II, and they had very tragic history of one of the probably worst history the royal family could face with the Soviet communist Russia. And then they put back the remaining back to Moscow, I understand. And what is your take? Certainly it is not very pleasant thing.
It's a different time, a different era, and of course one can't forget what happened. On the other hand, you have to turn it in a different direction and acknowledge that that was a different world, a different regime, and many years have gone under the bridge since then. And so I'm very comfortable in Russia. I like the attitude of the people there. I'm very impressed by their own education system, for example, their knowledge and I can find in my own persona a lot of things which touch on the Russian thinking and their attitude to life. So it's a difficult thing to say. I can't say I'm comfortable with what happened. Of course I'm not. But on the other hand, I think you have to put certain things out of your mind. And I find that not too difficult.
What made you returning back to Russian language and to stay with the language? Who made it possible that?
It was my decision, but I learnt it as an adult when I was serving in the army. I was very well taught. From what I've just spoken in Russian, you may disagree with that.
I would agree.
And I love speaking it. Whenever I have the opportunity, I speak.
Practice.
And in fact, it's quite curious being here in Mongolia, where you have so many Russian, so we say, signs, both physical and in your language. And I found myself unable to communicate in Longa, which is very frustrating.
We have we are using Cyrillic alphabet here.
At least I can read it.
With the children, back to what we have been talking, tomorrow you are going to have a party for dinner for people to come and so you are still exploring what you can do in Mongolia. And what would be the similar country you would accept, like to start with in Mongolia?
Well, we after China, the success of China, we've looked at several different countries. So we've been exploring Thailand. We've also been exploring Mongolia, and that's all comes through relationships and discussions, and making sure that it fits within the culture. I think really often I share stories because I think they're very, very powerful stories. In China, for a long time, people said, "Oh, this won't work here because people don't take children from outside their own families."
And it works.
And it has. There was one child that had a heart defect. They thought she was going to die. She was very skin and bone. And we placed her into a family, and she thrived and became very happy and bouncy. And when I went back to see her sometime later, she'd got a ballerina outfit on and was dancing in the hospital. And people were so happy. They said, well, now we can do the operation on her heart. And so they called the consultant surgeon to do the checks on her heart. And I'll never forget, he came out of the operating room, removed his glass, wiped his tear. He said, I can't explain it, but her heart has healed itself.
That's what's up from heart-to-heart relations of people.
Absolutely.
Speaking about that, what would be your expectation from 10 years from now in between England and Mongolia? In which level you see the business relations, people-to-people's relations, educational field?
Well, I think the opportunities here are such that I would expect great things from the relationship between Britain and Mongolia. What's against it? I think on the negative side is geography is against us, and that's not easy. On the other hand, I know you have in mind the idea that one of your own airlines will be able to fly direct before long to London. That will make life easier. But I think where the will is there, you can get things done. We've heard what happened in the hospital with the doctor and the child. If you apply that in business, you can also make great strides. So I think that those companies and those people who have been from business between England and Mongolia, have really been very impressed with what happens here. And being a young country, I can put it like that, you have the opportunity, you're quick thinking, quick on your feet, and you can react in a way which means that you only have to have an idea and it develops without some of the bureaucracy, which unfortunately we in the West have been rather good at. And I'm very much involved with small businesses in Britain, and I see the opportunity here for small businesses as being one of the main areas of development, which I'm very keen to try and pursue.
Your Royal Highness, what would you advise today's young Mongolian students who is keen to learn the history, language of the United Kingdom, and through that to have such a knowledge that they can be competitive in their future career. What would you particularly advise to those young people?
I think that the way to do this would be to read as much as they can about Britain. That's the first thing to do. And then to make as many contacts as they can. And when they progress, and when they've gone through university and become qualified in whatever business field they want to go into, then obviously there are people who can give advice and people who can guide them in the right kind of direction. But from the beginning, to start off with an interest in England, I think you have to, before you meet people, you have to read about it and take that in. Unfortunately, there aren't very many obvious links so far between our two countries. But I mean, another wonderful thing that young people can do from the other way round, and for Britons wanting to learn about Mongolia, and our own young people in Britain, is to read up about Genghis Khan. We have this morning been to his statue, that very impressive edifice which stands out in the wild steppes there. Made a great impression on me, and on a child who saw that for the first time would have been a wondrous thing. So there are many links like that. It starts with personal contact or with reading.
You said as soon as you have a will, it is possible to do. And with this, such a nice words, I wish Mongolians we have a lot will, and I think this will bring to prosperous, wonderful, economic, mutually beneficial relations between two countries and two nations. And I think your trip is playing an important role. Thank you very much, Your Highness, for coming to this program.
I'm delighted to be in the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.